Hey Hodies, welcome back to my channel. My name is hautemesstom and thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today is it's a new kind of like video series I'm inviting into my channel, and I don't know what I'm gonna call it yet. The working title is sasstermath or sasstermath. Anyway, so this is a video that's in direct response to my Critical Sass series. In Critical Sass, I talk about new makeup releases. Sometimes new makeup releases are very exciting and enticing, and also we sometimes see trends. And so what I'm going to do in these videos is look at the makeup that I talked about in my last video that are new releases, then take a look at my collection, pull out things that give me similar vibes to just show myself maybe new isn't better necessarily. Maybe I have something in my collection that's going to feel similar or that might be better than the new stuff being offered by makeup brands right now. I'll walk you through it every step. So if you are new to my channel's about loving my makeup collection as it is first and foremost, while being discerning about what makeup I do decide to bring into my channel. But I am a little bit privileged than the fact that I am a content creator that has a bit of an audience. Sometimes I receive PR, and I also do make money on YouTube to be able to afford new makeup releases to occasionally review. But most of all, what I'm trying to focus on is we don't always need the new releases, even though we love makeup. You know, we can love what we have first, and perhaps what we have is even better. If you are the kind of person who loves to buy every makeup release and that makes you happy, please go ahead and do that. But my channel's about what I just said. So you're welcome to join us, or you can go on your merry way, whatever you want to do. I would love to have you subscribe if all of that sounds good to you. Make sure to like this video. I'm on patreon.com if you would like to support me there. I do some additional content there, as well as my podcast with my friend Kackie of Kackie Reviews Beauty. I also have a regular free podcast on Spotify with my friend Tiffany called Recollect. That's all linked down below. Any additional stuff, Instagram, all that's down below. Check it out if you want to. I normally start with my eyes. I'm going to save the eyes for last. So I'm going to tell you why I picked out each thing as we go. So for primer today, I chose the Victoria Beckham primer. I don't believe I talked about a primer in my Critical Sass yesterday. I don't think there was any new primers to talk about. I don't think there's been any new primers in recent past that has sparked any interest enough for me to talk about it in Critical Sass, or it's from a brand that I don't really talk about anymore. I chose this because something that I'm always focused on is a luxurious, weighted, beautiful experience. And this is kind of in response to those Hermes lipsticks, which had really beautiful packaging. Victoria Beckham products also have really beautiful packaging. This is the Cell Rejuvenating Priming Moisturizer, if I didn't say that. I always love interacting with this. You may know that this is like, I'm almost done with this. And I bought it last year and I have no regrets. It's so expensive, but it's something that I have found really worthwhile for me. And I always love interacting with it. And it's always at the top of mind. When I'm choosing a primer, I'm always wanting to pick this one. If I were enticed by a new primer, the likelihood of it being better than this for me and like what I want and my needs is going to be very unlikely, especially in the area of luxury. Like, this bottle's beautiful, glass, feels very heavy, and that's an experience that I'm looking for. I know that not everyone wants their luxury makeup to be weighted, but I like weighted packaging. It feels really good and luxe in the hand to me. It's not necessary for luxe products, but it is my preferred experience whenever I'm interacting with something that I consider to be luxe. I have this already. What could the Hermes lipstick give to me except for another lipstick? For my foundation, this one was a little bit harder. So what I chose is the Surratt Surreal Skin Foundation. I did receive this in PR from the brand. I try to keep my foundation collection a little bit smaller, and I don't typically like anything more than a medium coverage. And I would say that this is a medium buildable coverage from Surratt. I'm going to put this on because I think that the foundations that I talked about had more coverage. So I think the only foundation I talked about was the Rose Ink, and it said medium. And I don't really have anything matte. Like, I don't have any matte foundations. I did receive this NPR, but this is actually something that I would purchase again. If you want to know more about my detailed review about Surratt, I have like an hour and a half long video reviewing much of those products. So if you want to check that out, you can. But I chose this because of the coverage it provides. The thought here is, what would a new foundation provide to me? Like, I have, you know, my other foundations, but if a lot of the foundations, and this tends to be what happens in the fall, it tends to be like more full coverage, less glossy and light coverage. I feel like that's reserved for summertime. And then as we head into the fall and winter months, we always want to go with a more full coverage foundation, which is interesting because full coverage typically leans a little bit matte, which is a little bit dehydrating, and then our skin's already dehydrated from like the cool, dry air in the winter. That is if you live in a climate where that happens, and I do. This is gonna be the closest thing that I think we're gonna have to like that kind of level of coverage, so that's why I chose it for today. Still going strong without the brush. I don't miss it. I did throw it away because I was like, I hate this. It's a little bit warm in my room. And we're at that interesting time of the year where it's like sometimes a little bit chilly at night, but then during the day it gets pretty hot. But today it wasn't like too hot, but I'm a little bit more red than usual. I also just recorded my podcast with Kackie and we like laughed through the whole thing. You know, that made my face a little bit red too. I don't think I've worn this since I've done the review, but it is really beautiful. It's in the dumbest packaging, but it is really beautiful. And like the thing is, this is my desired finish, and based on the way that the Rose Ink foundation was described, it didn't say it was matte. It said like it had a natural finish. That typically means like either like a soft matte or skin finish, and I do like something a little bit with a little bit of a glow. I'm fairly picky about foundations. A foundation release would have to say like all of the right words. Like I'm always interested in a foundation because I love foundation. It's like one of my favorite steps, which is really interesting because I don't think that my skin typically needs like foundation, which is why I'm into like light coverage, but it is my favorite part. I think and this is just for me, you don't have to abide by these rules. I like having like a canvas to work on, even if it's not perfectly fixed. I just like having a little bit of a canvas to work off of. Like this is the most coverage I really will go for, and it's not even like, it is definitely like medium. You can still see a little bit of my redness through it, but certainly not light coverage. Since I already have this, I don't need the Rose Ink foundation. Not that it was something that was super tempting to me. I have something really good in my collection already that could do something and give me the same coverage. It's not the exact same effect. It's going to be more of an effect that I like because I already have this foundation. Even though I received it in PR, I decided to keep it. And that, to me, it's like, I've already made that decision. Why would I go through the decision of buying a new one? And I want to just also state here is like, the whole purpose of this is we're like heading into some heavy consumerism times. There are going to be a lot of sales thrown at us. And I don't think that you shouldn't buy anything. It's really hard to reel it in. And I know this just from experience. This is what we're attempting to do here. So I hope that you're looking at your makeup collection. Like, are you really missing something in your foundation that a new foundation can provide? There's been a lot of concealer launches recently. It's been interesting. I guess I am pretty picky about concealer. I feel like I'll use whatever concealer, but I guess when I don't like it, it's really hard for me to fall in love with a concealer. But I recently did fall in love with a concealer. And the Surratt Dewdrop concealers. Again, I received these in PR from the brand. I really like them. Now, I bought the Givenchy earlier, and I used the Armani Luminous Silk before that, and I liked both of those. But these really do something for me. I like them because they are really high coverage, but a very thin formula. And I don't need like high coverage, but these like really look like skin. So I don't find them hard to work with. Sometimes whenever I use a full coverage product, I find them like pretty difficult to work with because they're thicker. I feel like they lay heavier on the skin. These are really lightweight and look really beautiful on the skin, and that's why I really enjoy them. While there is the Surreal Skin from Makeup by Mario, that concealer has launched, and then the Triclone concealer and the Gucci concealer. I don't think me exploring those and trying them out, unless I was trying them for you on camera as a reviewer, but not as someone who's very interested in them myself, I don't think I would get a lot of value out of them as just a makeup buyer because I already have these concealers. I just fell head over heels in love with these recently. And yes, they were gifted to me, but like, I don't get that way about concealer a lot. And why should I search for something more perfect than something that I already have? We're going to use a mix of both, which I know is unrealistic. I've complained about the shade range in the Surratt concealers before. I use a mix of shade 1 and 2. And I don't spot conceal. Anything that's really designed for spot concealing isn't something that I desire. I mostly put concealer under my eyes just to make me look a little bit more awake. But when I have blemishes and such, I normally just like let it happen. Because it's like, to me, that's totally fine. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know why. That's the Surratt Dewdrop Concealer. I feel like my skin's looking really good. There has not been any contours that have come out recently. I'm just gonna pick a contour from my contour video that's up and coming. I'm gonna be using this one from e.l.f. This is the e.l.f. Contour Wand in Fair Light. I don't normally contour my nose, but for the contour video, I have been contouring my nose with all these products because I think that's going to be valuable information for people who do like to contour their nose. But I have been liking it. And it's not that I don't like my nose. It's not that I don't enjoy the way my nose naturally looks, but it's been like fun to contour my nose. That's like the thing about contour, especially when you're doing like a very intense look, which I don't do too often, but like you can really certainly make new angles on your face and I think that's a lot of fun, and I think it's fun to contour my nose just because it's like, oh, I can do that, and it makes it just look a little different. It's, again, I'm not really doing it to make it, like, looked snatched. Like, that's not really the desired goal. It's just like, I don't know why I've been getting a kick out of it, but I have. Okay, we're contoured. I am gonna powder. I don't feel like there's been any new powders recently. I think there's been one from Milk and there's one from Lunar Beauty that recently launched. Those weren't something that I talked about in my critical sass, but I know that those are things that have come out. But I'm just gonna do my regular powdering situation. I use a lot of powders because I have oily skin. So I'm gonna go with my Charlotte Tilbury airbrush and the airbrush brightening and the Chantecaille Perfect Blur. So I'm gonna do that and I'll be right back. We're powdered and we're ready to do some other powder products. So for bronzer today, I don't really know if there's been any bronzers, but let's call back to the face palettes because, you know, we're about to do a bunch of face products. So Hourglass released those face palettes and I do think they're objectively really beautiful and they have bronzers and highlights and blushes in there. But I have a bronzer in my collection that feels really luxurious. In fact, I think it feels more luxurious and more weighted. And again, that's important to me. It might not be important for you as a viewer, but for me, I like interacting with that kind of product. And the Victoria Beckham bronzing brick came to mind. And this is actually going to be really good as we go into the fall. I have the lightest one. This bronzer is like so very fair. And I think sometimes it like barely shows up on me, but that's great as we head into the fall months because, I mean, not that I get much sun in the way that I live my life, but I'm certainly going to get less and less sun because there's just going to be less of it to go around. And I think that this will make for a really good fall. Well, I know for a fact because I had it the last fall and winter. And it is really, really good for that. And I just like interacting with this a lot. In fact, it gets pulled out a lot anymore. Not always for the like sculpting side, but I do use this like lighter side a lot to blend like from my concealer to my blush. That's a trick that I learned from watching Kackie, and I don't normally use this side whenever it comes to the bronzer. I wish that I could opt into getting a full brick of the sculpt shade, but I do use it now that I have a reason to use it. So would this be a perfect bronzer for everyone? No, especially if you're not planning on using both sides. But it is just a very beautiful bronzer. And because it's not in a face palette, which is like what normally gets launched this time of year, it's a bronzer that's specifically for me. And I got to pick out the bronzer shade that was the best for me on the Victoria Beckham website, as opposed to taking a gamble on just a palette that's going to have a bronzer on it. Is it going to work for me? Most of the time they are a little bit too deep for my skin tone because I'm pretty fair. And it's going to be also a bronzer that's too light for other people. It's going to be just right for only a few people, right? And this way it's like a completely customizable experience. Unlike buying the Hourglass palette, I got the bronzer just that I wanted that's gonna work the best for me. For blush today, when I picked this blush out, I was thinking of the Hourglass palette because the Hourglass palette, I think it's the one that sparks the most interest every year. It always causes an upstir. There are a bunch of people who want it, and there are also a bunch of people who do not want it at all. And I thought of this product because it's kind of a multi-purpose product and it's very special. And I like the packaging on it. It's like a very weird bit of packaging and it's from Chantecaille. This is the Chantecaille Sunbeam Cheek and Eye Shade in the shade Ray. And it looks like this. And people use this, some people just use it as an eyeshadow. Some people use it as a blush. Some people use it as a bronzer. Some people just use it as like their cheek product because there's a bit of shine in it. And I probably could get away with like putting it on in this area and it would look like a blush, bronzer, and highlight because of the way that it looks. I don't really believe in universal products. Obviously, someone with really deep skin would not be able to use this as a solo cheek product. I'm aware of that. Every time I've talked about this, everyone in the comments who has it has been like, I found so many uses for it. It's so strange. It's a strange little product. And while I definitely roasted this whenever it first got released, the way that I heard people talking about it after it was released was so intriguing to me, which is why I ended up picking it up. To me, I think I had a gift card, so I didn't spend full price on this, but this was $80 full price. And I think I paid $65 for it. I love this shade and I use it all the time. And it was a shade that I got to pick out. There wasn't more than one shade of this available at the time. I don't know, they should make this permanent. I don't know what they're doing if they're not. And I think they should make more shades in this formula because it's like a really good formula. I paid basically the amount that the Hourglass palette would be for 6 shades. Like this feels like something that I got to pick out just for me with this shade, and it has proven itself very useful in a number of ways. I'm gonna wear it as blush today. It is like an orange blush, I think, overall, but it pulls a little pink on me too. I like it as a blush, but it also certainly could work as a bronzer. And then also you can see the shine. I wouldn't need highlight. I'm gonna put more highlight on because I'm a highlight girly, but like, look at that. It's just so stunning. It's like this je ne sais quoi product, and I think that's just much more exciting to me than 6 pans of powders from Hourglass. It wasn't much cheaper. It was, you know, it was still a very expensive product, but it's a product that I will use more than I would ever use that Hourglass palette. And that's like me being honest with myself. Perhaps an Hourglass palette would be a good purchase for you. But for me, this is something that can do much more for me than that one can. For highlighter, I was thinking of the highlighter that's going to come out from Armani that I guess is out in Europe now, and it was that gold highlight. I don't have any gold highlighters. I used to have Trophy Wife. I thought of this Makeup Forever one. It's the Makeup Forever Pro Glow in Rose, like a rosé. I think it might be rosé, but this is what it looks like. Is a rose gold, and that's about probably as close to gold as I feel like looks good on my skin tone. So I do definitely find like the Armani powders enticing. Like I would like to try them. I would like to try the Armani blushes. I think those are things that I would enjoy if I tried them. If I did get tempted by the Armani one, because I think the formula is going to be good, ultimately that shade's not going to work for me, and they only released one shade. And I find that this highlight is like really beautiful and natural and forgiving, even though it has a little bit of micro shimmer in it. It's like not detectable when you put it on the skin. Why risk it when I have beautiful products in my arsenal already? Let's move on to eyes. We've seen a lot of matte neutrals palettes coming out. I don't know that I find that very exciting, but it is the trend. And I am most intrigued by the Danessa Myricks one because it's like supposed to be this like face multi-purpose. The pans are probably a little bit bigger. I have this palette from Viseart. In fact, a few shades are in a custom palette that I built, and I don't know where the custom palette is. But I have all these beautiful neutrals to play with, and it also has some colors, so there is a little bit more variety. And while this palette is, I think, $150 at full price, I think I got it half off. Like, Viseart runs a lot of sales, so if you're not paying attention to them and you have been interested in Viseart, get on their email list. That's if you can handle that. I know that not everyone has the willpower to be on a list just to get information, but if you happen to be on the lookout for Viseart palettes, they do tend to run sales fairly regularly. So I think I paid $75 for this, which is only $5 more than the Patrick Ta one, and that was only $35 more than the one from Kosas, and it's about $10 more than the Danessa Myricks one. While this definitely has more shades than the Danessa Myricks one, and it has a little bit more variety, I still think there would be like, there's value in that Danessa Myricks one. I think that's like actually a very exciting and intriguing idea. But I already have this matte palette, and I also have the Hindash palette, which also could have worked, the Beautopsy palette. But I wanted to pull out this one because, you know, they were in individual pans. It looked a little bit more like the palettes that have been coming out. I really love the Viseart formula. Maybe like neutral mattes are just in right now, and I'm missing the memo. I don't know if that's what's going on TikTok. But I already have a bunch of neutral mattes, and I'm sure you do too. Even if you don't have a neutral matte palette, I'm sure you have a bunch of neutral mattes and a bunch of palettes, and you can mix and match them. And I bet they might have a little bit varying undertones, which is like kind of the selling point of having a matte neutral palette, is to like have those different undertones to play with in those neutrals. So it's just something to consider. So I just primed my eyes with the NARS priming, whatever is this called, the smudge proof eyeshadow base. And I'm going to build a look. I can zoom you in. We're going to do an all matte look, which that's very rare for me on this channel. I'm going to take a light cream shade, and I'm just going to set the eyeshadow base with that. I'm going to work with warm neutrals since the cheek that I have on is a little bit warm. And I'm going to just kind of take the lightest warm neutral, and I'm going to use that as a transition with a large blending brush. And I'm going to take it all the way to my nose. So there's not going to really be a lid shade. I'm going to kind of use a little bit of negative space. I did a really bad job shaping my eyebrows. Look at that. Okay, so it's not much different than my skin tone, but you can see a little bit of something starting. So I'm going to get a little bit of a smaller blending brush. And basically I'm working in a gradient. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper with the next neutral. And I'm going to just kind of do the same thing, just closer to the inside of the eye. So I'm not going to go out as far as I took the transition shade. And I'm going to blend it up and then again over to my nose. I don't have very big eyelids, so if I resting, you can see that I have like a strong pronounced brow bone, and then I have like hooded lids. I kind of cheat my crease to make it look bigger by going a little bit higher. And that's why I shaved off my eyebrows, because it really limited what I was able to do with eyeshadow. And then I just like the look of it. That's why I don't have eyebrows anymore, in case that was a burning question if you're new here. It just made doing makeup easier for me and like what I like to do in my taste, because my brow hairs would be inside of this part of this look. Now, some people have like a lot of retail space on their eyes, and I just simply have not been blessed with that. So, you know, I'm cheating it a little bit to make my eyes just like look a little bit bigger. That's where we're at so far. And just kind of like clockwork, I'm gonna get a smaller blending brush and I'm going to go into a deeper brown, deeper warm brown. Kind of do the same thing. This one has a little bit more red in it. I'm gonna keep it more focused right here for a bit to do some blending, and then I'm gonna just carry the excess to the center. And so now I'm going to take a pencil brush and then the deepest brown that I'm going to take, and I'm going to keep it focused literally right on the edge of my eye here, and kind of sort of do a little bit of a wing to give my face, to give it a little bit of lift, but I'm not going to blend it up into the crease like I did with the other shades. I'm pretty pleased with that. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a large blending brush again and go back into the original cream shade that I set my lids with. And I'm going to put that right over top of the bare part of my lid and just do a little bit of blending it in with the rest. Okay, that's the eye look. No sparkles today. No sparkles. I've zoomed you back out. I'm gonna throw a little bit of eyeliner on. There was the glitter liners from Urban Decay, but I don't have anything like that, and I don't feel like putting loose glitter on my eyes today because we have this beautiful matte look, and that seems to be more of the trend than the Moondust liquid glitter eyeliners. So I'm just gonna use Cocoa from Victoria Beckham. I'm gonna tightline, and I might do no, I don't think I will. I'm just gonna tightline and put it in my waterline. Just kind of like with the eyeliner, there wasn't any mascaras that I think I talked about recently, so I'm just going to continue using my Tartelette Tubing Mascara. And finally, for lipstick today, everything's kind of been built around this lipstick as far as like the shades that I've chosen, but I pulled out my Givenchy Brick lipstick. This is their sheer velvet lipstick in the shade 51. This was limited edition last year. I don't know if they made 51 permanent in their range, but this is the shade right here. It's this beautiful orange. And I feel like with all of the neutral eye and like the warmer cheek that I have going, I think this is gonna look really perfect. But the other reason that I chose it is that this is some of my favorite lipstick packaging I own. It's very fun to interact with. It's like this beautiful, ornate pink packaging. It was a fall release, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know if this is like very accessible packaging because all you have to pull on is these two studs, and that's how the packaging comes out. Something to be aware of if you've never bought a Givenchy lipstick and you have dexterity issues. Just something to know. It has like a scent to it. Like it smells like a Givenchy product. I don't know. It's like one of my favorite lipstick shades, and 'tis the season. We're heading into fall. I think I probably would buy the Hermes lipstick if those shades looked special and not sheer. And I feel like this is a very special shade of like an orange red that I have from Givenchy. It's already in my collection and it's in beautiful packaging and I already have it. I'm just saying. I'm gonna spray my face real quick and then we will wrap up this video. Okay, here's the final look. Very simple look. A very matte look, which is like not, well, the eyes, the eyes, not the rest of my face, but very matte look for me, which is like not something I typically do, but still very gorgeous and effective, and apparently seems to be on trend with what these brands are trying to tell us. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope I inspired you to maybe take a look at your collection before potentially deciding to purchase. If you're a makeup lover, I'm sure that you have something in your collection that already feels and works as good as what anything new potentially could. And I'm not trying to say that you should never buy anything new to make yourself feel good or whatever, but you know, do it in moderation, be discerning about it. And I think this is a really great way to remind ourselves and check in. Let me know if you think this is a series that I should continue after every critical sass or not. It's up to you, whatever you would like. Anyway, if you enjoyed today's video and you're not yet subscribed, now is the time. Make sure you like the video. You can check me out on Patreon. There's no pressure to do that again. It's a way to support me, but no pressure to. I appreciate you being here. Thank you to all of my current patrons. You are the absolute best. And that wraps up everything. Remember to follow your hote, and you will find me. Bye. Forever.